Thank you. Okay. So the question is about experience. We say that the self experience, but we say that the self is not an experiencing entity. But on the other hand, the scriptures come back to say that every experience is an experience of the self, right? Because everything is but the self. There is only the self. The self is of the nature of reality, and this reality is non-dual. It's one without a second. So everything is the self. So it occurs that within the scope of this non-dual reality called Satya, or the self, this superimposition of names, forms, and a dynamic field of actions and experience takes place, like exactly like a movie project on the screen. Okay, so now we have a lot of experience taking place, and as we know, the only entity that experience the field of objects are the jivas, the jivas, and only the jiva is the experiencing entity, is the medium by which consciousness experience the field of objects, which, by the way, what is the field of object? It is only consciousness, because all there is gold. All there is water, okay? All there is clay. So now, within this projection, we have these living creatures called the jivas. And the jivas become an experienced entity due to their subtle body make them alive, and they can become aware of their environment, and they can begin interacting, transacting. So the jivas are the only experienced entities, but the jiva experience with consciousness without the self?
No.
Because the self gives life to the jivas, okay? Self enlivens the jivas and animates the jivas through Maya and its three energies and the pranas and so on, and gives it intelligence. This reflect consciousness makes the jiva alive and dancing and moving and interacting and so on. So who is doing everything? Who is experiencing? It's consciousness, but consciousness needs a medium. Consciousness needs an apparent medium in order to apparently experience itself as diversity. Okay? So there are two things. One is the self is not an object of experience, meaning to say the jiva cannot turn to the self and say, hey, you're the self. Okay? Why? Because the jiva is the self. Okay? Appearing as the in this secondary order of reality called media. Media in this kind of a mirror-like apparatus in which all these names and forms just appear in the sense and so on. So we have the jivas, and the jivas, they can never try to find out the original light, in an objective way. They can never turn back and say, okay, so what has been producing this conscious existence of mine? No, it cannot look at the self objectively, okay? But it can understand directly and immediately its very nature as consciousness, as the self. You understand? So this is one thing. The self cannot be experienced and known as an object of knowledge experience, okay? So now, who is experiencing? I'm asking again, Claudio, who is experiencing?
It's consciousness that experience.
It's consciousness. And what are you?
What does it mean, what are you? What I am?
What are you? I don't want to ask who are you. I want to ask you, what are you?
You mean a body, mind?
I don't know. Introduce yourself. You have... You have to define
Again,
yourself.
okay, I can define myself as consciousness or with the body-mind construct.
You can define yourself very well. You can define yourself as consciousness because you know that it's your primary, free, independent nature, true nature.
Nature, yes.
Or you can define yourself as the body-mind complex. So when you define yourself as the body-mind complex, what happens to you?
I experience the world.
Yeah, and you feel limited, right?
I feel limited, of course, yes.
You feel small, you feel, you feel vulnerable, you feel
yes.
insecure, right? Anxious, afraid, desires. So when you identify yourself fully with the body-mind construct, there is room for a lot of suffering, pain, and anxiety, and insecurity, and a long list of psychological uncomfortable feelings and experience. Okay, so Vedanta was revealed to us so that we can correct our identity. We can let go of this identification. I am the body mind, and we can just claim our identity as the light of consciousness. So, and what is the gain about that?
That I don't feel incomplete. I feel full and complete. I feel.
You feel whole, full, and complete, and then you realize that nothing can really touch and affect or limit you. You have no limits. You have no, borders, You just, there is only you. You are the only game in town. There is only you and you and you through and through all the universe and all time and space and beyond time and space as we know. So when you that you are the substratum of meteor, and this substratum goes far beyond meteor, beyond this universe. You understand? You really understood in the simulator true nature as this existence, which is the substratum of everything. Okay? So, who is experiencing this apparent reality called meteor? You, the body-mind construct, or you, consciousness?
You, consciousness, but through the medium of the body-mind.
That's a very wise answer. I was afraid that you're going to say, I, the body-mind. No, you, consciousness, you are experiencing meteor. You are experiencing, although you are not an experiencing entity, but associated to Maya and the Jiva, an experienced entity, you become the knower and the experience of everything. And everything is but what? It's yourself. You yourself. All this beautiful mystical experience we have sometimes to understand the oneness of things, nothing more than to understand that there is only consciousness and I only experience myself, There is only God and I only experience God. There is only Brahman, So because that's the only reality. So the most important thing is to know that I need my jiva in order to transact in the world of transactions, of objects, of people, places, things, and events, and circumstances, and so. I need my medium, but I'm not anxious about losing this medium. Why? Because I have defined myself. I have claimed my identity as consciousness, and so what happened now? And it happened that I have all the mediums of the universe. I have all the jivas at my disposal. So it's not that I'm going to be looking around, I'm going to claim this jiva as my jiva. No, it's not about that. But it's just resolves with mind. I know that I am the original light of consciousness and I shine everywhere. You understand? But it's a shift of identity. It's a shift of identification, you know, with either Satya or with Nitya, with the spirit or with matter. You understand? So your original question is who is experiencing? So you answer us again now.
Please, sorry.
I said, so you answer us again, please now. Who is experiencing?
Is consciousness the self, but through the medium of the body mind.
Yeah. That way, then you have no room for confusion anymore. I consciousness experience every time that, you know, I have a medium for experience, a medium for experience. We need a mediums for experience. And then some people sometimes, I have a friend from Brazil that she was really freaked out about that. So if I am consciousness and I need a medium for experience, and then I don't want to do this medium here, you know, because I love this medium. I love it more than any other medium, you know. So, so if I lose this medium, what's going to be of me? So I'm so affectionate to this medium. So this is samsara, this is attachment, this means to say that the person did not understood yet what it means to be consciousness, you know, that you are just Purna, you are full substratum of everything. And moreover, all these mediums, they are just media. You know, they have a dependent existence, they depend on me, but I don't depend on these mediums. You know, I remain as conscious existence, you know, and I don't need to come back and get another medium. Why? Because I'm tired of playing this game. And then people also get a little bit afflicted. Oh, no, I want to go back. No, I want to go back with, you know, in a nice circumstance because I have a lot of punya. Yes, chances are that we may come back with in a better body, in a better set of circumstances, you know, in a more involved family or family Avianis with prosperity family. So all of that's possible. It all depends on how attached we are to have another round and another round. You know, we are growing spiritually, and that is going to bring us better and better births. You understand? But the point is to be free altogether of having to come back because you understood that I am already full as consciousness, so I don't need to come back just to accomplish more and more desires because fundamentally all these desires try some sort of ignorance, some sort of Maya or misunderstanding as if, no, I still want to come back. Of course, there are noble desires like Vedanta said, I want to come back so that I can chant the name of the Lord. That's very beautiful. And that may bring him back, for example, you understand? And there's nothing wrong about that. So you are going to say...
Yeah, I was confused about the fact that when we say that the consciousness, the self, don't have experience, you can understand that consciousness don't see nothing, and this is not true. Of course, consciousness see, but through the medium. Is this correct?
Yes, consciousness sees whenever Maya comes into operation. When this power called Maya, it somehow it brings forth, you know, the universe, and then in due time the jivas appear, and then consciousness can experience through its jivas. It's so, but consciousness it does not care about that.
Exactly, because if you are not identified with the jiva, you are detached.
I mean? Yeah, you don't have an investment in Maya. You don't have investment on the jivas and the experience. Nobody knows why Maya comes into place and projects the apparent nitya, the apparent order of reality. But the fact is, the consciousness being whole, full, and complete, it does not lack anything. We lack when we feel limited by something. What the limits us? Fundamental time, space, and properties, attributes. So we are defined by our attributes, qualities, and properties, and we would like to have more and more qualities, and I want more, I want to know more, I want to be able to this, and I want to be free to live beyond time and beyond space. So all these limitations, they belong to Nietzsche. So what is going to make consciousness just want to come back to feel limit again as a jiva, and or even be limited by having to deal with something which is colored by the three gunas, which makes universe is a limitation of consciousness. Maya is a limitation of consciousness. So once you your consciousness, so you don't have any more those hooks with Maya and so on. You're just okay not to experience anymore. But if there is any little bit of desire to come back to experience, to come back to be a spiritual teacher or to help others, that is a noble desire that brings someone back. So say the scripture, the scriptures. It's still a subtle attachment to meteor that is to bring one back. But it's better to come back for a noble desire rather than a desire for money, more power, more prestige, and so on,
I'm thinking that this discussion is a jiva experiencing life, the good and the bad. Good things happen, bad things happen, and Ishvara provides the results. And then it's applying this logic, to do this logic, this inquiry, to help really understand what the results are and what's happening and how it impacts the jiva, but doesn't impact the self. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the jiva is experienced life, and it became a karma yogi. It understood that I'm just an instrument, and I'm operated by Ishvara, by the gunas, by my vasanas, and so on. And I want to have a happy life. So, and that is one level of the teaching, So you understand that, life is beautiful, but it's not really real, but it does exist and serves the purpose of preparing us for a certain level of maturity, so that we begin losing interest in this beautiful creation, and we develop the interest to understand what we are, who we are, and be free. Life serves this purpose. Gradually, it's going to bring us to that point of this passion, as we say. I develop this positive, this passion, this positive, this interest in objects of Mithya as a means to complete myself. So I understood that the objects of Nietzsche, all experience of Nietzsche are value neutral. So therefore, I just navigate with a sense of peace and equanimity, and knowing that I'm just here and so on, but free from all those other anxieties. As when we live from a standpoint of total spiritual ignorance. Spiritual ignorance is I don't understand Ishvara, I don't understand Nitya, I don't understand what a jiva is, and much less I do not understand what the self is. And then that is a recipe for suffering. So if we see like, okay, I am a jiva, but I am a karma yogi, so I'm already in a good track. So I'm just preparing my mind to understand that I am consciousness, and I have an objective view, understanding of my medium of my jiva. You know? Is that more or less, is that in line with what you were saying, David?
Yeah, and it's in line. I don't know why, but I'm kind of going to some studies of Buddhism, and one of the primary tenets that I took away from that was the idea of a bodhisattva, which was somebody who who was a realized being, I think, in their terms, but wanted to be a teacher, so didn't want to necessarily leave the cycle of
Right.
death and suffering, but instead, return and help others and become a teacher. So you kind of alluded to that. So I'm kind of right now in my head's kind of in the parallelism, or I don't know, parallelism is not the right word, but how Buddhism, is a manifestation, if you will, of Vedanta. Is that fair?
Well, I mean, I don't know much about Buddhism, but I understand that it is a derivative, if we can say, it's of Vedanta, I mean, I believe that that the only difference is that Buddhism reject the Vedas. That's the most fundamental thing. Buddhism, they knew about the Vedic culture, they knew about the scriptures, but for some reason, I heard some stories of the reasons why that kind of thing happened. They reject the scripture, the Vedic scriptures. They reject God altogether. You see, Buddhism is not really a religion because there is no God. You understand? So and they have different notions about the spirituality, which it converges to the same end, which is freedom. They talk that the aim is freedom, and the cause of suffering is ignorance of one's true nature. But they don't link, this nature as consciousness as Brahman or God or something like that. They throw away a lot of those, and they don't bring Karma Yoga into place like Vedanta does, And they have a lot of these notions about being a good person, which is altogether good. It's better to be a good person. But they are very much caught up from the little, I understand, they're very much caught up trying to be a better me, a better jiva, a better, body-mind construct by following all these rules and norms of conduct. And then they go to the extreme to say, no, I cannot get enlightened unless I make everybody else enlightened, So they go to that kind of extreme, which Ramji sometimes like to label as the ultimate do-gooders, as he said, So nobody can really save anybody. Nobody can really enlighten anybody. So with Vedanta, we keep it very, very transparent. So this is the results of one's personal spiritual effort. We need to do the job ourselves. So therefore, and understanding karma, we know that everything is good, everything is perfect, and also that suffering serves a great purpose. What's the purpose of suffering? I mean, it purifies the soul by exhausting papa. So if you have a lot of karmic debt, so you want to pay your debts and repay through suffering. You understand? So suffering serves the purpose, if nothing else, to exhaust papa karma. And then to the degree that we exhaust papa karma, the mind gets more pure. And then we begin working, transacting in a different way, and we begin producing more punya rather than more papa, right? So everything has its place in our Vedic culture, and everything is perfect.
Just when you think about suffering, then to understand suffering that way, it's something that to resolve papakama, then to me that really calls in the mind shraddha. I mean, you really have to have faith and trust in the scriptures and the teachings in order to be able to um, kind of deal with that suffering, or that approach to suffering in our apparent reality.
Well, you have no other way. I mean, whether you have trust in the scripture or not, what you're gonna do with your suffering? You can put it under the carpet, but it's gonna hurt in any case, you know. So when we suffer, we suffer. It's much better to understand the laws of causality, to understand the karmic laws that somehow governs everyone's experience. And then by doing so, you can take it as prasad and knowing that, okay, I mean, this is good. It's going to help me in my process of development and process of growth. And I'm suffering, and this is part of my, you know, this is logic. This is an entire system called karma yoga, in which, you know, there is no effect without a cause. And we always get what we deserve. When we understand this from a larger picture, and then we start taking things more and more as prasad, saying, okay, it was meant to be that way, and so that, and moreover, David. So does it help to kick and scream and to say no, I don't want it, and to fight with God? None of that. It makes suffering even more painful. Right? So it's much better. I mean, in the Christian image, in the Christian culture, there is a nice image about Christ carrying its cross. You know, it's a beautiful image. And in my old satsangs before I got into Vedanta, I used to use that construct to say every one of us have to have our own cross to drag around, you know. And what is this? Oh, Papa, our sufferings, you know, all that, you know, that somehow we need to go through in order to purify our souls, you know. So all of this is helpful to resolve the mind of the jiva, to pacify in an intelligent way the mind of the jiva. Understand? I know, okay. Not that you want to be attached to suffering. No, I'm giving me a heavier cross because now I want, you know? No, you're just like, okay. So it helps us to go through suffering. All this, the understanding of the laws, you know, of this order called Mitya.
I think that just really helps just deal with everyday life, just, you know, with the day in, day out type things that come up.
Yeah. And when it hurts too much, we can even pray to Ishwara and ask him, please, Lord, take it easy on me, you know. I have been suffering enough. And so I'm still, I know that belongs to me, otherwise it would not be coming to me. I know that's good, but please, so what is the best prayer in this case? So give me strength and power to receive this suffering without ever losing my trust, you know, my trust in life, my trust in you, my trust in myself, you know. So this is a positive way to pray to Ishvara in difficult moments of suffering and pain.
And well, other people can talk too, but I mean, it just occurs to me that where's our place of refuge when this is going on, when we're suffering? What's our place? Do we create a place of refuge? And I don't mean it necessarily has to be physical, although maybe it can be. Maybe it's going to the peace garden at True Nature and sitting there. But trying to create that place of refuge, and so that we can pause and reflect and kind of I don't know, process, if you will, the suffering and how it fits relative to, is it ignorance, or, where are we in our path, or is it means to knowledge?
Yeah. I mean, the best thing when we are in a situation of a lot of mental, emotional suffering is to just say, okay, so send it in, Ishwara. I want to be over with it. So if it wanted to hurt, so just bring it on, you know. The sooner the better, and I want to take it in, internalize it, and be over with it, because it comes and it goes. So when we want to find a refuge, we have to be careful not to find a way to somehow avoid it, you know, or going somewhere to get distract from that pain. So the most common thing is to start drinking alcohol. You know, you start drinking alcohol. I used to do that with wine. Some people do it with hard liquor or so on. So it numbs the subtle body, you know. You're just like, ooh, okay, now it's not hurting. Some people like to smoke a joint or something. So whatever we do on those lines, it's just postponing the problem. We suppress it and then it comes back. You know, marijuana is a big suppressor of emotional suffering, you know? And so alcohol as well. So we just say, bring it on. I want to be done with it. I want to take it in, and I want to process, digest, internalizing it, and get through it. You know, it sounds good.
I just love the idea of thinking of it as prasad. It's just I
Yes.
keep going back to that again, and to me, prasad always had to do with food and providing food, and offering up to the deities, to the gods in Hinduism or in Buddhism, um, and but this whole idea of suffering is prasad is worth investing.
Yeah. I mean, everything is prasad, because everything that Ishvara presents us as our prabhupada karma, it serves the purpose. It's an opportunity for us to learn, you know, and grow. Everything. Learn and grow, learn and grow. Even if he comes and he decides to destroy all of us and begin everything from the scratch again. So it needs to be taken as prasad, you know. I mean, you are flying there over the states, and then, oh, something go wrong, and then we're going to crash and go down. You say, thank you, Lord, it's prasad. So I'm going to start fresh again with a new body. I'm holding you in my mind. Thank you. So everything has to be seen as prasad, because life is a gift. And everything that comes with life is a gift. That has to be seen as a gift as well. This is knowledge. So this is spiritual knowledge that we need to understand the logic behind it, so that we don't go into kind of blind faith things, you know.
I'm going to have to say so long, and I'm booked at 9 o'clock, so I have to go. So
Go.
thank you.
It's that. No, it's 10 to 9. Okay, we carry on a little bit more. Karen, how are you?
I'm doing fine.
Good. Did you settle down yet?
No, we're still looking at houses. We don't know where we will be yet. It remains to be revealed. So we walk with eyes open, and as the mystery unfolds.
Yeah. And where are you now again?
We're in New Jersey.
New Jersey, East Coast.
And we're looking at houses in Delaware.
I see. Okay.
Yes. I was looking while you were talking at the gunas. I don't have all the words of Vedanta in my mind. So when you're talking, I'm looking at the words. I know the meanings and I'm familiar with the dynamics, but I don't have the labels. And so I was looking at the gunas and noticing the sattva as a mirror-like substance. I'm using this book as I look at the meanings. And it mentions a mirror-like substance that reflects awareness. It mentions many things, but that's
Right.
at the end. And then when I look at tamas, it looks at the veiling power of Maya. So the revealing, the reflection, and the covering.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at the third one is Rajas, the driving and the activity, right? The desire.
Yeah.
And so the desire comes along to disturb either the exposure or the cover, right? Some
Right.
desire comes along to rock the boat and clarify things. So I was just noticing that while we were talking earlier.
Right. Yeah, I mentioned the gunas, meaning to say that when Maya comes into operation and then everything gets colored or, constituted by the building blocks of the universe, which are these three energies. These three energies are the building blocks that exist in the macrocosmic realm of creation as a sat, pure sat, the intelligent, efficient sat that somehow contains all the knowledge of the universe. And then we need an energetic cause, which is rajas, and then we need a very dense energy which does not reflect consciousness, but rather it takes in, absorbs consciousness and to turn it into matter. So these three energies, they are the building blocks by which the universe comes about, and consciousness shining in sattva guna or reflecting in sattva guna brings about what is called Ishvara. So Ishvara is consciousness reflecting or shining in one aspect of Maya, because all of this is Maya. In the aspect of Maya, which is predominant with Sattva, brings about the Lord, the efficient, intelligent cause of the universe. On the other hand, when consciousness starts shining on the other aspect of Maya that is more predominantly rajasic, it brings about the energy which is required to project that kind of intelligence or notions or ideas or the verb, thought into creation. And then, of course, we need tamas that provides the material aspect, that which later on grossifies as the dense aspect of the five elements, material, the tamas aspect of each one of the elements that later on is going to combine to become the grossified, dense, physical material elements, primary material elements, like space, air, fire, water, and earth. So everything begins by these three energies, and these three energies we can sense these energies in our body, but we can also sense, most importantly, in our subtle body. Most probably you have heard saying that we need to cultivate and develop more sattva, because sattva is the energy that allows us to have focus and clarity and intelligence, and so on. Flexibility.
Isn't it so that the sattva is in all of it?
Yeah.
That's the thing, right?
There
even
is
even in the, when the stone hits the lake, there is sattva there also.
Yeah, in every solid object, let's say this one is very solid. So even here there is sattva. Everything in the universe requires the three energies. The only thing is that here sattva is is present in very small proportion. You understand? And most of it is sattva guna. Understand? The elements, but presenting themselves in their tamasic or in their dense form. You know, it requires a lot of tamas. But there is no doubt. I mean, here there is sattva. Why? Because it exists, and it exists out of intelligence, out of creativity, out of of knowledge. You require knowledge to create anything. So it's just a question of the proportions. But you are right. Even Ishvara, when we say that Ishvara, most probably Ruth and Karen or even Claudio may have heard Ramji or I say, or Sundari say that Ishvara is pure sattva. There is no such a thing as pure sattva. I learned that later on, studying with Paramarthananda as well. We say like that because it's so
relative.
Huge, the predominance. But once Maya comes into place, Maya is the three energies, just like boom, boom, boom. There, it's already a blend. The three energy already operate. It's just a question of the predominance, the proportions, And Ishvara is this blend of the three energy, but with a huge dominance of sattva, and then it somehow it holds the intelligence, knowledge of everything, the entire universe, entire cosmos, and so on, and all the laws governing and sustaining and recycling everything. So it's interesting, this teaching, because we can observe in which way it operates our minds.
I was thinking about it with Claudia's comment about experiencing. That's what I was thinking about, how the experience is meaningful to each jiva differently based on their collection. I don't know what we call their collection. And the sattva is unique and specific to that jiva. The jiva's ability to see the tamas density in the thing on your desk, but know the sattva is just as present, even though it's not as experienced.
Yeah. Yep. We can say that. How are you doing, Karen?
Doing well. Yeah.
Good. Are you back with your work of massage and so on?
No,
No.
not yet. Another month or so, we're going out to visit our daughter in California in 10 days or so. And so I'll probably start back in July. But things are different.
Yeah.
Things are different. They're trying to figure out how, the proper way to come back to do massage is going to be. So yeah.
I know someone who is giving back massage. He went back to do massage, just using masks and so on, and the patient with masks.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be. It's just.
I went for a haircut the other day. They were looking a little bit like an astronaut. Yeah. But it was all good. So we need to learn at least until until we have enough immunization. It will pass.
Yes, and then there's all those people that are, well, it is hard to know if, you know, the immunizations are going to be researched enough, you know, to be effective and safe. Do you have to, you were saying that maybe in Italy they're going to require that you do vaccines?
Well, I mean, there is this talk has been going on everywhere, and I'm watching it very closely, especially what comes from WHO and CDC and those guys there. They keep repeating that everybody needs to be vaccinated and so on. And I looked into the studies of several other scientists and doctors, and I tend to believe that there is no way a vaccine for a coronavirus, which is a difficult virus, can be produced in 6 or 9 months, you know, safely, without making tests with animals. They are trying to cut corners to that extent, you know. So it's going to be a risky vaccine, and I will do my best not to take it.
Yeah.
So at least I want to watch for 1 year and see what happens with the people who take it. You know?
Mm-hmm.
You see, you can imagine that there are 600 or more labs. I don't remember if it is all over the world or only in the USA, experimenting with bio weapons by using virus and other germs to create bio weapons. And the idea for the past 20 years has been we need to pull this virus from animals that they don't jump into humans, but we need to see in which way they could jump into humans so that we have a bio weapon with us. And all of that has been made under the notion of defense. So we have a bioweapon. Now we can know what we can do, a vaccine or something, to protect ourselves from these weapons. And I have watched a beautiful interview of 2 hours with a doctor who spent almost 30 years in these labs. And she at certain point, she confessed that this was the most terrible thing they ever did, because all nations started doing that in the name of national defense. And then everybody learned how to manipulate this virus and make them transmissible to human beings. So now everybody has these weapons. And over these 20, 30 years, they never really discovered how to make a defense, a protection, or a vaccine against that. So now they came up with, you know, an infinite number of weapons, and they never really got to learn how to make a shield, humans against these things. So we have a problem with this now, you know. Mm-hmm. Oh, and you see there are some virus like the AIDS, the HIV virus. So now it's 20 years. They never got a vaccine. Understand? The SARS, they never got a vaccine. It's very difficult to make a vaccine for these things. So unfortunately, I tend to believe that the best way is to allow this virus to go its course, taking care of the older people, you know, knowing how to treat, because by now we made so many mistakes all over the world, and now we know better how to treat the older people. Understand that the people who are dying are the people who have the immune system already totally compromised, you understand? Then the first thing is to start working on improving the immune system of everybody, including the older people, and let the virus go its course for 1 year, 2 years, and then we're good. Understand? And then we have to deal with the fact that there are so many of these viruses in labs that, I mean, we don't want them to by any accident to leak or anything, you know. So there is a lot. I have been looking to these things, a lot of scary things there. So your question, if I can, I want to take it at least for 1 year to see what happens with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not because I'm against vaccines. I'm not against vaccines, but you know, it's common sense.
It needs the research and the
Yeah.
long-term,
Yeah.
the longevity to see what happens.
Yeah.
In the
We
fact.
need vaccines. We need vaccine. I have taken all the vaccines. And even when I went to the United States, I took several vaccines when I became an American citizen. I have no problem with vaccine. But, you know, I mean, we have to understand that there are trillions of billions of dollars business, you know, behind this concept of vaccinating the entire population of the world. Many trillions. I hope it's not going to get me into trouble because this is the most controversial subject nowadays to talk about vaccine. It's more than talking about politics or religion, you know. People get really, yeah. Okay, we must go. It's already 10 minutes past.
Okay.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you. We see you again next Monday. Much love. You.
Thank you. Thank you, Orlando.
Thank you.
Thank you, Orlando.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day,
Ciao,
everyone.
ciao.
You too.
Ciao.